This is after the headlines. I'm Sarzah. Bangladesh is in a moment of grief, anger, and reckoning. In recent days, the rape and killing of an 8-year-old has triggered protests and vigils and renewed calls for justice across the country. The public response has not only been about one child, it has reopened questions about how violence against women and children persist and why justice often appears uneven, delayed, or even reactive. Many Bangladeshis still remember the case of Shazneen, a case that exposed how even one of the most high-profile cases moved through a long, painful legal process before reaching finality. Others remember Tonu, whose death has become a symbol of violence, of unresolved questions, institutional distrust, and frustration of delay. And now, as newer cases emerge, and some courts in recent times have moved faster, including a very recent death penalty ruling in Meherpur, Bangladesh appears to be asking difficult questions. Why does justice move quickly in some cases and painfully slowly in others? Does public outrage strengthen accountability, or does justice only accelerate when tragedy becomes visible? At its very core, this is not a legal crisis. It is also a social, moral, and institutional one. So today we are stepping beyond headlines and beyond the immediate outrage that we are witnessing to ask what this moment really means for the country. To help me unpack this, I'm joined by Barrister Farhan Mustafa, advocate at the High Court Division of the Supreme Court of Bangladesh, whose work focuses on family and criminal law, and he's also a faculty member at University of Lancashire. Farhan, thank you for joining me.
Thank you very much for having me here. Let me begin by saying this very honestly. The situation in Bangladesh, whatever happened, every time a child is being raped or murdered or a woman is being murdered, we mostly actually react with horror, isn't it? We demand death penalty or some fast trial, exemplary punishment, sometimes even, how should I put it, extrajudicial language enters the public discussion. I understand the anger. I understand why people lose patience because when a child or a woman is the victim of sexual murder or violence, anger is a very natural, I think, is a human response.
Mhm.
But as a lawyer who has been practicing and as someone who has also been linked to teaching, I believe, a justice system just, it must do more than just punish the after the tragedy. It must prevent, protect, investigate, prosecute, convict, and even more rehabilitate or
Absolutely.
hold institutions accountable. Okay, and there is one thing you should know that Bangladesh actually does not lack laws. In fact, we have on paper, I say on paper because we have like Nari or Shishu Nirjatan Ain Daman 2000, the Children Act 2013, and the Penal Code 1860, and much more uh, laws regarding this. For example, also the Pornography Control Act 2012. But the real question remains is that why do still we suffer despite these
Right.
laws? I think this is what would be the point where we actually begin the discussion here.
Absolutely. Farhan, I want us to take a step back. And
Okay.
I want to know from you, given that you've been working in the field for a while now, are we seeing an actual increase in these types of cases, or is it because the media is inflating it? Uh, is there a bias over here? Perhaps we did not have a prevalence of social media and viral news, so we didn't really see these types of cases come up. Is that the case, or do you actually see that
No, no,
these kind of cases have
I
gone up?
would, I
Mhm.
would put this in a way that we have increased the visibility
Right.
because of the social media or online journalism or human rights activism. Because in the previous times, that the social media plays a very big part in our lives today. Okay,
Hmm.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so for these kind of the visibility has increased, and furthermore, in the past, families who were victims of the families might have hide these matters because they feared the stigma. For
Mm.
example, today there is at least one some possibility that the case will become public,
Right.
but I would be very careful about saying it only visibility because the brutality we are seeing is deeply alarming.
Yeah.
Children are not being only abused, they are being killed,
Yeah.
dismembered, silenced, and treated as disposable. For example, the recent case of Ramisa Akhtar, you can
Mm.
see it was one of the horrifying
Absolutely.
examples.
That's yeah. And what do you think is leading to this?
Leading to this, if you see that there is actually a kind of pattern here, I would say that most of the perpetrators are not strangers. You do
Yeah.
have to understand they are
Mhm.
not strangers. They are mostly like neighbors, relatives, tutors, drivers, landlords, or shopkeepers, family acquaintances, more than how we put it, the religious teachers in the madrasas,
Mm.
or
Right.
people who already have access to child.
Yeah.
The second pattern is actually proximity. This proximity, which means those who have access to like your homes or rooftops, or being around the child. And the third pattern is that that child is dependent on that person, or we should put a dependency,
Right.
because
There is
children
this
depend on,
power imbalance.
yes, power imbalance. And
Mhm.
the fourth most horrifying pattern is silence.
Right.
Okay, because before many serious crimes, there are very, we have seen there are warning signs. For example, if a child avoids someone or becomes fearful of someone, but if a child says, I don't want to go there, I don't want to go there, or anything, what we do, we say, why won't you go there, you don't listen to me.
Uh-huh.
But we should actually ask the child, why don't you want to go there, what happened with you.
Mhm.
We are dismissive of the child. That is not a good sign.
Absolutely. And I think that is the culture, right? That hierarchy,
That
that
is the culture.
ageism, it's very ingrained in how we are raised or socialized.
Yeah,
I
well, because from a very young age, we both of us have been told, বড়দের কথা শুনতে হবে. Okay, we must
exactly.
listen to our elders.
Mm-hmm.
You should not speak ill of elders, no matter what he have done. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
this is, I would say, whatever happens after that is actually like damage control. It's, we are not doing anything to prevent it. That is where the problem actually lies with us.
Yeah. Farhan, I want to ask you about the politicization of certain cases, right? This has become a media sensation of some sort. We have seen that politicians have visited the homes of the victim. I am, sort of curious to learn more about how the politicization has affected the verdict process. I mean, if you think about these cases, right? The Shazneen case, 1998, it took about two
Yes,
decades to get any sort of verdict. Again, this is a very high profile case, very elite of the elite, right? A lot of resources were invested in this process, yet it took 2 decades. And now we are hearing that these recent cases are going to get a verdict or some kind of resolution by 1 month, by 1 week. The recent case in Meherpur, they reached a
mm,
verdict within
within 28
29
days.
days, exactly, within 29 days. And this particular judge has a record of delivering death sentence in other cases as well. And he mentioned in a part of his judgment that the political climate, public opinion, all of these were influencing factors in his decision to, decide death penalty for that particular case. So yeah, I
Okay.
want to get your thoughts on, like how does
It's
politicization really affect the verdict process?
what is it affects at a great length, because I'm not being a part of any political party or anything. I would like to say, before, the situation of Bangladesh has changed after the 5th of August. The public is not anymore can be controlled, or they do not. The public have a sentiment that actually they do not believe anyone, and they have a tendency to take everything, take matters into their hands.
Mhm.
This is one. This is one fearful factor of the government that actually pushes the government to be accountable, which was not visible for the past 30 to 40 years in Bangladesh. Okay, because I have seen my at first hand, because we term that what was called chadabaji. It is going less because it's not because the parties have reformed. It's just because of public outrage.
Right.
Okay, so the thing is that I would say the politicians are now bound to make reform of these things, because especially after this horrific case, the public sentiment, because last day when I went to the court, I saw people standing in front of the court and telling them, hand over this guy to us, no need to punish him, we
Mhm.
will punish him ourselves.
Yeah.
So you do understand where the public stands now. Public are not ready to tolerate anymore.
Right.
Okay,
But do you think
that
this is mostly a quotidian stunt? Because as a nation, we are very emotional and we are a reactive bunch. That's, very obvious. So do you see that this is a genuine national awakening, sort of like an
I would say a
inflection
general,
point?
no, not influence. I would say general national awakening,
Yeah.
because the thing is that, because when they are talking about these cases, they are not talking about only about Ramisa's cases. They are
Mm,
also talking about Sagar Rooney. Then they are
yeah,
talking about Tonni. Those murder cases. They are also mentioning these cases. They need to reach a verdict.
absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I would say, because I have not seen these in the last 10 years or 20 years of this kind of people reacting like this. People have Bengali people are very emotional people,
Mm,
but I have not seen them reacting like this.
yeah. I want us to go back to Asia's case, Farhan,
Okay,
very
let's
fresh
do
in
so.
our mind, the rape case in Magura. Asia was also
Yes.
8 year old, and I had personally written about her because my family comes from that region as well. So
Okay.
Hitu Sheikh, he was the one sentenced to death by the Magura court, and three other family
Okay.
members who were also involved in this situation were acquitted due to insufficient evidence, and the High Court accepted an appeal challenging this verdict and imposed a fine. Um, he's still alive, and that has been a question in public's mind as well, that okay, you have reached a verdict, why hasn't it moved forward? Could you give us an insight into how the timeline really works after a verdict is reached?
It would be appropriate. I would say why the timeline is not. I would be able to say the proper. I think the proper way to it would be say that why actually I would put it the why the laws fail in this practice.
Okay.
Okay, because first of all, as I told you before, the laws are very strong in Bangladesh, but the problem is that the chain of justice is very very weak. First of all, is that when first I would put out like this: the first failure we face is about late reporting.
Mm,
Families often delay because of shame, fear, social pressure, and there is a huge mistrust of police.
yeah.
And you do have to understand that delay actually destroys evidence. The second failure would be, I would say, the first response. The police first response is very crucial. If the scene or the clothes or even the body is not moved, the statements are not properly recorded, the case weakens.
Mm,
Then we have a problem is that we have a very very weak forensic infrastructure in
mhm,
Bangladesh.
mhm.
Nobody talks about it. Nobody says anything. So you do know that this type of violence requires DNA, medical evidence, biological samples, toxicology, or injury
Right,
reports.
right.
That we have a very poor forensic infrastructure. Okay, then we have there is one other problem is that witness intimidation. There is no witness protection, as we have seen in other countries. Poor families are sort of most of them threatened. They are pressured by local people into compromising. Then another thing about Bangladesh is that we have a how should I put it? We have a very huge backlog of special tribunals. It is to me it is very meaningless if it carries the burden of ordinary backlog. We are creating special tribunals, but it has the same backlog just as an ordinary trial. Then another problem I see is that we do not prepare our prosecution team very much. A prosecutor most of the time prepares cases. That person must be briefed, but he doesn't do that. He doesn't go with preparation. Most of them suffer because prosecutors are not strategic; they're reactive.
Mm, mhm.
That is I think that is a huge problem because they think I'm getting paid anyway or something some sort of like that. It's a social thing. I have a name. I'm a public prosecutor. I can go anyway. I'm not saying that all of them are bad, but most of them are not strategic in their
Yeah,
ways.
not motivated.
Okay,
Mhm.
not motivated, not they are just reactive. They do not prepare cases most of the time. And third is sorry so, and the last I would say the social stigma actually forces the victims or the victim's family not to get justice about it.
Yeah.
Because whenever I have seen these cases, people usually what you know what they ask, what was she wearing?
Mhm. Who is asking this
Even in
question?
child rape
What
cases,
was
the
she
prosecution is
wearing?
asking
The
me.
prosecution is
The
asking.
prosecution is, or even the defense lawyer is asking what was she wearing. Does it matter what was she wearing in case of a 7 or 8 year old child? I don't think so,
That's what I'm seeing
isn't it?
on social media as well. There is a group of people who are commenting on what an 8 year old child was wearing. Yeah.
No, isn't it? What would a 8 year child wear? Then they ask people like a question like, why did she go there, or why did the family delay? Maybe there was consent. Okay, so this is actually I would say the
Hey, can
mindset
you tell
is
me, Farhan, a
morally
little bit? I
disgusting.
just want to backtrack a little bit over here. When it comes to consent,
Okay,
especially in cases where there is, incidents of child assault, how does the legal system see
hmm.
consent in this case? I mean, can a child provide consent?
No, the child is incapable of providing consent. There is a term we call like dolly incapax, which means the child does not have the necessary mental element to form something like consent. That person is not mature enough to form a consent. That consent is invalid.
Yeah, yeah. Farhan, I want us to move to this narrative about death penalty. And we know that Bangladesh
Okay.
expanded the death penalty for rape in 2020 after earlier public protests. Has that
Hmm.
improved anything, or has it mainly satisfied public anger?
It has just satisfied, I think, because even though they have explained that penalty, then there was this another provision. I think you know about that. That in previous times before 2022, if a woman's character has been described as generally bad or out of context, then rape convictions would go away if she had a bad character. So even though there were reforms in it, but I don't think that has how should I put it, that has increased the justice system or made a better thing, because it's still moving at a very slow tortoise pace.
Is there a legal definition for bad character in the Bangladeshi legal system?
There was, it was removed. Bad character means one person associating with many other people on various or taking money for it, because Bangladesh is one of the few Muslim countries where actually prostitution has been legalized. So if you can prove that person is a prostitute, you have given money. So at one time there was that if you had just proven that that person has taken money or something of a bad character, though the conviction would go away. So in amount of immense pressure from public and protest, Alhamdulillah, it was removed.
Yeah, but it's also kind of bizarre and
It
contradictory
is
in the
it,
sense
it is
that
bizarre.
if prostitution is made legal, then they
Hmm.
are within the purview of law to be, working or, being in that field. Um, um, so, Farhan, I want to ask you about what determines the pace of a case of verdict. We've seen that these cases take ages, but now we are hearing from different politicians, different circles that we will act very swiftly. Why was it not possible in previous cases to have these sort of quick actions?
As I told you before, visibility. There was not much visibility in previous cases, because of social media, people are now much more informed than before. They know things before, and they are able to understand what is happening. For example, let me tell you, even if you go out, a rickshaw puller or a tea vendor would even they know about what happened in Meherpur and what happened in Ramisa case. They
Mm,
even know, but in previous times people would not know that. Social media plays a very big part in people's lives today.
right.
I think every single one of us has a Facebook account or a Instagram account. They know these things, and much more. These things are shared among people. So I think it's a good thing that people are going to know about, getting to know about it, uh, for which we are now getting like cases like finished in 28 days or a faster one within 1 month conviction. That is a good thing, I think, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah. And how do you think we can balance public demand for speed with the accused's right to fair trial and the victim's family's right to credible justice?
The thing is that the courtroom culture does not change overnight because the statute changed or there has been a reform. If you want to find a faster way, the judges must actually actively control cross examination. Then the defense has you should we have the defense has every right to test evidence. Fair trial is actually a fundamental thing. But in our country, humiliating a victim is not a cross examination. It happens all the time, most of the time. It is, I would say, term it as secondary victimization.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the court actually must protect the victim's dignity while preserving the accused's right to defense. This is where the balance comes.
Absolutely. And what do you think, as a legal professional, justice should look like in cases such as this? Ramisa's one particularly, or, in cases where, children have been abducted.
As a human being and as a lawyer, there should be swift action. As I told you before, that justice or the aims of sentencing does not mean just to pass a sentence for the sake of the victim. There should be this system, justice system actually exists to protect the people, rehabilitate people, and even from causing recidivism, which means that reoffending or further offending. There should be a fear in people that if I do this, I'm going to get caught, isn't it? But
Right.
I might be punished about it. But the problem in Bangladesh is that many people, because of this political uh, liaisons, associations, people use that. They can intimidate people. They can, and for the one thing is that about the police, you know that how the Bangladeshi police works. So these things actually plays a very big factor.
Right.
If we can get rid of these things, I think it would be a proper legal system in our country. There are laws, but there is no implementation. That is where the
Yeah,
problem is.
absolutely. What kind of reform do you think should take place in this arena? And I want you to speak from this angle. Think about the victim, right? The location, age, socioeconomic status, family background. I feel like we have this ideal victim complex, right? There, the ideal victim, who is going to be the ideal victim, the most powerless. If what has happened with Ramisa, with Asiya, with Tonu, with Shazneen, I mean, again, very, very young lives have been completely erased. If this happened to a woman who's 30 years old, who's 35 years old, do you think the outrage would have been less? I mean, do we, sort of like this fantasy, this imagination of, what an ideal victim looks like? I mean, how do we really, think about this victim complex?
Hmm. I think I do understand your question. Let me answer you with like Section 53, which states that you have a duty to inform authorities when a child or a woman is a victim or a witness. This is a very powerful section, which means that if a child protection is not on a family matter, uh, but the problem is that is public ignorance. Okay, suppose you are going home, you see someone is being mugged. You yourself in Bangladesh, would you interfere?
I mean, for fear of one's own life, they would probably avoid it.
Yes, that is what the problem is. We even do not uh, want to call the helpline or anything else, not to entangle in these things,
Mm.
because even if you report it, the police would come to you, disturb you a lot. So we act, the main failure is actually the public ignorance. Most people do not know these things, that if you inform something or someone, you would might be helping someone,
Mhm.
doesn't it? Until it happens with you, you're not concerned. We have to get out of that stigma.
Yeah,
we have to
absolutely.
be uh, we have to be more aware of it. This, in a way you put it, like if it had been a 30-year-old woman, would it be this kind of outrage or not? I don't think it would be having there had been this kind of outrage, because last year, if you look at statistics, there were about 2000 women raped. That is only recorded ones.
Mhm.
We do not know how much are there without recorded ones, isn't it?
Yeah,
So that is what the problem is, public awareness. And or the we do not have public awareness. We have to create that public awareness among ourselves.
yeah.
Okay, and that can be only be created when the government actually teaches us very in various schools and everything. Suppose I let me tell you that Bangladesh teaches like sex education, these things like a taboo, isn't it?
Yeah.
So when I have heard many of my female colleagues, female friends, or my students, they didn't even know that they were being abused, because their parents or anyone else did not teach them what is a good touch, what is a bad
Mhm,
touch.
mhm, mhm.
So we have to make our kids teach them, okay, if that person touches you like that from a very young age, we if we teach our children, our next generation, about these things, I think there might be less cases like this.
Absolutely. And I
Okay,
think
but
would be an empowering experience for the whole society as well.
yes.
I mean, unfortunately, where we are at the moment, it only seems that, the country is able to deliver urgency after horror becomes public. It's
So
very
after
reactive.
that is just, I told you before, it's like damage
Mhm.
control.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
not actually preventing. You're not going to the root of the problem.
Hmm.
Whenever you teach your child that do not go there or do not go there, this is what is called a good touch. This is what is called a bad touch. Okay, so people treat these things in Bangladesh like taboo. You cannot never talk about it,
Absolutely.
isn't it?
Yeah.
So that is a real concern.
Farhan, my last question to you again. Thank you so much for sharing your critical insights. Five reforms that must happen now so that 10 years later, when we look back at this time, we can say that we have done something good.
Five reforms.
On the top of your mind.
Sure, why not? Five reforms that we can talk about is that, first of all, we do have to create victim centers in every, if you ask me, Zilla Parishad and everywhere, so that people can go to whenever there's something happens. And because most of the time, police are actually, I don't know, they are themselves uncomfortable when this type of cases comes to them.
Right. So it does
So,
sound like
so
some sort of community supervision, community center
I mean,
where
there should
survivors
have,
and
there should,
victims feel comfortable
yeah,
reporting to. Okay.
comfortable to
Okay.
talk to them. There should be trained legal experts
Mhm.
or police,
Yeah.
especially in these kind of things.
Social
Okay,
workers.
that
Yeah.
social workers,
Mhm.
this kind of things,
Yeah.
like talking to them. Then we should make the public aware of the things, that look, there are these laws to protect you. Then
Right.
other thing, we have to create a very powerful victim and witness protection.
Mm-hmm.
I told you it's a very big factor in Bangladesh because it is very easy. It is very easy actually to intimate the victim's family or the witness's family of the
Absolutely.
witness.
Yeah, yeah. That's a
Okay,
fact.
that we should create a very strong so that this cannot be done. Okay,
Yeah,
then I think this kind of trial should be open to public, so that public needs to see what is going to happen. Public should be more, how should I put it, more informed about it. They
mm-hmm.
should know about the consequences, what is happening, what is not happening.
Yeah,
Okay, we need to also teach our children how these things work. If someone does to you, where to go, to whom to say. And one other thing, we should also teach the parents, please
mm,
don't be silent on it. Act now, because if you're silent on it, someone else's daughter might die yesterday, or your daughter even might die yesterday. Sorry, tomorrow.
absolutely, absolutely. Well, Farhan, thank you so much for your time.
Thank
I hope the reforms that you mentioned, we'll be able to see those materialize in reality. Uh, Thank you,
you.
listeners, for listening. Stay in the conversation. We are at a very critical moment in Bangladesh. So stay with the conversation, be active, do your part. Thank you.